Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the voice of global supply chain. Supply Chain Now focuses on the best in the business for our worldwide audience, the people, the technologies, the best practices, and today's critical issues, the challenges and opportunities. Stay tuned to hear from those making global business happen right here on Supply Chain Now.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and Kim Reuter with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's episode. Hey, Kim, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Outstanding. We got a conversation with a retail dynamo where they're going to be sharing proven best innovative practices that your supply chain, anyone, can certainly benefit from. So, Kim, we got to keep it real though. Got to be clear. No corporate secrets will be revealed here today, but we're going to be offering valuable perspective on topics such as how to effectively and plan seasonal strategies, because any supply chain can learn from those that have to operate successfully in a compressed time frame. We're going to talk a lot more about omnichannel retail optimization, supply chain technology, what tools are available out there to streamline shipping, and a whole bunch more. We're also going to take a look at, put your shades on, the future of retail fulfillment and what that might bring for consumers and supply chain practitioners everywhere. All that and a whole bunch more. So folks, stay tuned for an outstanding conversation filled with what? Actionable takeaways. Because if they're just regular, ordinary takeaways, are they really that valuable? Kim, should be a great one here today, huh?
It's going to be fantastic.
Fantastic. 5 stars from Kim Reuter. And if it's good for Kim, it should be good for all of us. Folks, 2 quick reminders before we get started. First off, hey, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And secondly, if you enjoyed today's show, be sure to share it with a friend or your network. They'll be glad you did. Okay, Kim, we're going to dive in. We got a outstanding 3-way panel this afternoon. I want to introduce, starting with Venky Avunoori, Vice President of eCom and Customer Technologies at Spencer's and Spirit. His colleague, Jim Ray, Divisional Vice President for Supply Chain Technology at Spencer's and Spirit, and backed by popular demand, our friend Justin Cramer, doing big things out there, co-founder with ProShip. Hey, Venky, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Scott. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Great to have you with us. And Jim, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. Thank you very much.
Outstanding. And Justin, how you doing today?
Great day for a great conversation.
That is right. We want to start with a fun warm-up question. We've got an outstanding panel, big discussion teed up, but we like to get to know our guests a little bit more on a personal level to start with. And Venky, I want to start with you. You are a fierce competitor, we hear, when it comes to half marathons. So Venky, tell me more about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it as a competition, but I started getting myself into running 10 years ago. And,
okay.
I started jogging and then running for maybe 30 minutes a day. And then before I realized, I got myself into half marathons. I enjoy running half marathons. I did a full marathon once, just to see how it feels. And it was great.
All right, so you're gonna have to give us all some tips there. I need to compete in my first half marathon and work my way up to a full marathon. Kim, you ever run a full marathon or a half marathon?
No, I ran 8 miles once by accident because I got lost and I had to get back. But no, that's as much as I've done.
That's a great story there. We'll have to get to it in a future show. But Venky, great to have you here and looking forward to your perspective. And of course, your colleague, Jim Ray. So Jim, we hear you're very passionate about the game of hockey, and you still play it almost every week. Tell us more, Jim.
Yeah, hockey. I've done several sports in my day. Definitely enjoy playing as versus watching. So picked up hockey about 20 years ago, and it's in my opinion probably the best sport to play and to watch if you go live. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely something where, you get heart beating and you got to have your head on a swivel. So it's a good thing. It's a good time.
All right. So clearly the Spencer's and Spirit team are in shape over there, powering the organization forward. And by the way, I understand, Jim, there's no checking in the league that you play in regularly. Is that right?
That is true. It's an adult league. None of us are getting paid to play hockey. We have day jobs, so it's more for fun. But it is hockey, so there's collisions that happen. And, on defense, you're still pushing and moving and doing things. So it can, I've broken my ribs. I've,
oh gosh,
hit the neck with a stick and couldn't talk for a week. So it can get tough.
Well, we hear your nickname is the Enforcer out there in the hockey league, so we'll might get to more of that soon. But Jim, great to have you. And Justin, I'll tell you, I think this is your 13th time with us. We've talked about your love for grilling. We've talked about your love for reading. Unlike me, you've read all the books behind you. And competitive ballroom dancing. Tell us more about that.
Well, much like hockey, it is a sport of communication. But unlike hockey, there should be no contact. Right? Really, it is great because it is something that not only gets your heart rate up, gets you moving, expresses a couple's ability to communicate with one another in order to execute a plan. So I see it a lot like business. So
I love it. I love that perspective. Sometimes we're just wired a certain way where we look at everything in the framework of supply chain, right? That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So Kim, you get the wild card between ballroom dancing, half marathons, and hockey. What's closest to where you spend some of your free time?
The running would be probably the closest where I spend my free time, though I do enjoy a good hockey game. We have a team here in Virginia called the Admirals. And so I have been doing a few hockey games, but running has always been close to my heart. It was my big stress reliever for many, many years, was running out the day.
Okay, I like that. And a little tidbit she said in the pre-show is for that minor league hockey team, y'all blowing conch shells to intimidate the opposing team, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That was our battle call, was blowing the conchs.
I love that. I love that. Well, folks, really appreciate y'all taking time to share some of the things y'all do outside of doing big things in global supply chain. It's always important, that work-life balance. Okay, folks, we got a lot of stuff to get into here today. I want to start with bringing context to the table. It's so important in this ever fast-moving world we live in. And Jim, I'll start with you. If you would tell us briefly, I mean, everybody's heard of Spencer's and Spirit, but for the 3 or 4 people out there that haven't, tell us briefly about the organization and what you do there.
Yeah. So, again, Spencer's and Spirit, I think everybody hopefully has heard of those brands before. We like to think they're fairly iconic. Spencer's is a predominantly mall-based, normal, traditional 12-month retail business. We were founded in 1947, so we've been around a couple of years. We get the normal retail challenges that any other retailer would get within that business. And then you have Spirit Halloween. That is a unique retail experience. It's been around. It was founded in 1983, so not quite as long. It's really taken off significantly over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. So we've had some rapid growth in that space, but it is a unique business model in that we're only open for a small period of time. And then this year, I don't know how many people are aware, but we also started up a Spirit Christmas business. So kind of piggybacking off our Spirit Halloween. So some similarities there, obviously in the the Christmas business line. And we have 8 stores this year.
Oh, I love it. And then definitely, Spencer's is iconic in my history with malls. And Kim, you and I talked about this a bit in a separate conversation. And of course, Spirit Halloween. How do we navigate Halloween without Spirit Halloween these days? Kim, your quick comment.
Spencer's was a keystone to my childhood. It was we went to the mall. Spencer's was like store number 1. You go to Spencer's. Loved everything about Spencer's. And so I'm glad to see that it's still around. I have so many things that I could go and I'm holding back because they're not all appropriate. But yeah, so I love that it's still here. I know that they have more of an online presence, which is great. And I'm super excited to hear about how they manage the Spirit Halloween, because this is a pretty big feat, right? Like every year we make like a whole new retail experience happen.
That's right. And I can't wait to learn more about Spirit Christmas, Jim. That is big news, big news. All right, Venky, if you would, now that we've level set everyone with Spencer's and Spirit, tell us more about your role at the organization.
Yes, I'm the vice president for eCom and customer technologies. My responsibilities include e-commerce, store technologies, and all aspects of retail, merchandising, planning, allocation, and buying. And also we have our own internal private label product development. So I'm responsible for that area as well.
Okay. Which is tougher? All that you do there or full marathons, Venky?
Both.
They're both equally challenging. Well, I love how, again, all the success y'all have had, the iconic parts of everyone's upbringing, as Kim was talking about. I've got some of the coolest shirts and posters, amongst other things, from my days. And then to continue to expand and serve the markets in new ways, such as Spirit Christmas. No one sits on their laurels, and clearly y'all's team does not either. Speaking of sitting or not sitting on laurels, I should say, Justin, folks have got to know your story a good bit and the ProShip story and your earlier appearances with us. If you would tell us briefly, to remind some of our newer folks, what ProShip does in a nutshell.
Well, ProShip is a shipment execution platform for small parcel and LTL. What this means is that we're part of the larger team of software that helps a company like Spencer's Spirit in order to move around their inventory, best utilize the inventory where it exists, closest to the customer, provide the greatest customer experience for that final mile to the customer.
Delighting and dazzling the customer. Big name of the game. Kim, we talked about that last time Justin's with us, and I bet Jim and Venky do that a lot in their roles, clearly. Kim, that's the name of the game, right? Delighting, finding new ways of delighting the customers wherever they are, huh?
Supply chain and customer experience, they're hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. If you don't have it, you can't sell it. That's the end of the story.
That's right. That is right. All right. So, folks, today, big theme here today, unmasking the omnichannel secrets of a retail giant, conversation with Spencer's and Spirit. Folks, we're not giving away any corporate secrets, right? We don't want an army of attorneys chasing after us, but you're going to learn some actionable key takeaways, key aspects of Venky's and Jim's and their team's success that you can apply in your own supply chain, whether you focus on a certain particular season or not. And I want to start with this, Venky. I want to start with you. So how does Spencer's and Spirit effectively plan and execute on those challenging seasonal strategies, particularly for Halloween, to make sure that product delivers on time and we maintain those optimal inventory levels? What can you share there?
Yeah, sure. As Jim was just sharing, right? We have Spencer's, which is a traditional retail business, and here Spirit Halloween, which is seasonal, right? And the unique aspect of our business is that while for guests, our customers, it's a 2 to 3 month, the sales cycle and the costumes available, but there is a year-round activity to make that happen. So it all starts with real estate strategy and finding the key locations, and at the same time, we start our product design, so the concept to all the way to manufacturing aspect of it, and then get all those products across the sea and to this side of the world, and then keeping that product in our distribution centers. Right. So now that we just finished our Halloween season, we're already busy trying to get this cycle started for the next season. Right. So from November through May, all these activities happen. And by May, we make sure that all the inventory is positioned in our distribution centers, and store openings start happening from July. Think of opening up 1,500 to 1,600 stores in a matter of few weeks. From July into August, all these stores are up. They're called pop-up stores, but when you walk in, they are like any typical retail store. Everything to give the guests the best experience they can. Kids walking in, having an in-store experience of the Halloween theme, right? So just looking at all this to make that type of experience happen for our guests year-round activities and a lot of different things that need to go in. What is really critical here is managing the inventory efficiently and effectively from the manufacturing all the way to the end point into the stores to move the product effectively. As you can see, it's a very complicated supply chain process, right? And that's our backbone for our business. It's really exciting to do this year over year and trying to look for opportunities for improvement, innovation aspects, so that we get the best possible experience for our guests.
I bet each year brings common challenges that don't leave, and also to bring a bunch of unique new challenges. And one of the things I heard there, and Kim, I'll get your comment here. Location, that's critical, but also inventory, as Venky was saying. Kim, your quick comment before I shift over to Jim.
So setting up 1,500 stores in a few weeks is an amazing feat. And, also the other thing I heard that was very interesting is that we're getting Halloween inventory in position, not just starting to ship it, in position in country in May. And that is way in advance of when you're going to need it. But when we look at this whole piece, this isn't just an e-commerce play. This is about repositioning all of the inventory then into all of these brand new stores.
Right. Man, November to May. Things are a challenging year or busy year round, but that November to May timeframe. Jim, what would you add to, again, focus on that timely product delivery and keeping and maintaining those optimal inventory levels? How do y'all do it?
Yeah, it's a dance, right? It is, and it's a dance for 2 to 3 months worth of selling time. When you think of a supply chain perspective, it is very challenging. We not only have to distribute to 1,500 locations year over year, not all of them are same year over year. We move around per se, but we also have a heck of a network behind that from a distribution perspective. We have a large number of distribution centers that we also pop up in order to support 1,500 stores. We have some distribution centers that we keep year round to support Spencer's, obviously, and then also to support the inbound traffic before we understand where our stores are going to be. We don't know where our stores are until that May, April timeline. So we have to stage and position the inventory that Venky spoke to, that we spend months prior getting ready and shipped in. We have to stage that for when we start getting keys to 1,500 stores. So it's quite the challenge from a physical perspective in a supply chain environment to keep track of all that and then position that out and ready to go at a moment's notice. Right. And as the stores open up, obviously we don't open up 15 at one time. It's a rolling, effort and exercise.
Yeah. Jim, I think a couple things I heard there, and Justin, I'll get your take. The scalability of the network, right? Not just the stores themselves, but the network that supports and fulfills and protects that inventory and delivers inventory. And then also something I think Venky said earlier, you walk into one of these stores, it may be called a pop-up store. You can't tell. You cannot tell at all. And it protects that experience, which also adds such another element of the complexity, Jim and Venky. Now, I'm definitely going to pick up on what Jim said. It's a dance. And Justin, we're going to bring in the world-class ballroom dancer. Maybe not so much about Spencer's and Spirit, but as you what you heard there and what you've seen there, project that out to what we're seeing in the marketplace and how other retailers are able to do the dance as well.
Well, I think one of the things you want to think about is origins. It's one of the forgotten things about when you're using a logistics product is, when do you know where your origins are going to be, whether those are kiosks, whether those are temporary stores, or whether you're building new brick and mortar? Keep in mind that you have to work with your carriers to get the origin set up. There's a lot of other logistics things behind the scenes that need to happen, and your software stack should make that easier. So understanding and communicating with your vendors that we are going to increase our number of origins, maybe by a small amount, maybe by a massive amount, like
right.
Spirit does, right? That communication, that to make sure that we can pivot appropriately and make it look elegant in the process. That's really important, because that not only affects how your customers perceive your growth, but it also affects how your employees perceive your growth.
Well said, Justin. And I love your emphasis on the carrier relationship. That's come up the last couple of conversations we had with you. And, Kim, it is an elegant dance, but it's a demanding dance as well, Kim, as we keep that visual and that analogy going. What'd you hear there from Justin, Kim?
Couple of things. One, we're talking about just setting up the stores and about the inventory and managing the inventory, but there's POSs that we have to set up. To Justin's point, there's whole entire carrier networks that don't exist that need to be set up for a few weeks. And it's an intense few weeks. It's not just a little bit here and a little bit there. So,
Right.
Arranging deliveries, pickups, how many packages, how many trucks, how much are we talking about? So there's a whole lot of work that's really going on behind the scenes that is supply chain related that we're not even touching on in these conversations.
That's right. And I know what I wanted to add before I shifted over to you, Kim, is Justin mentioned ensuring that technology makes it easier. And like, gosh, in this day and age in 2024, the golden age of powerful supply chain tech, I mean, that is the name of the game, making it easier on the team to find more success. All right. So shifting gears here, Venky, back to you. Would you discuss a little bit more about your company's approach to omnichannel retail and how it leverages various channels to provide that seamless customer experience that clearly you are so well known for?
Yes, Scott. As you can see, we put heavy emphasis on our guest experience, whether they shop online or whether they go to the stores. It's very important for us to make sure that we have an omni-channel strategy across the digital and the physical channels, right? So one of the key aspects where we focus is buy online, pick up in store, as well as buy online, ship from store, right? Those are the key two components of our strategy, where we put a lot of emphasis on effectively allocating our inventory across the nodes in the network, right? So for guests, when they place online orders, we want to make sure that whether they're picking up from the store or whether we are shipping from the store, we have the timely delivery of the product happen. And as you can see, Halloween costume, after the Halloween, if it is delayed by a day or two, is of no use, right? So the timely delivery is going to be that much more important. And as we get closer to the Halloween, express, overnight shipping, and same-day deliveries, they start to pick up, right? So, the omni-channel strategies, as well as making sure that we have the inventory positioned effectively. Those are the two key areas where we put a lot of efforts in.
Appreciate that, Venky. And I tell you, BOPIS became one of my favorite acronyms in the last few years, right? But you also mentioned not just to buy online, pick up in store, but buy online and ship from store. And we've seen a lot of organizations leverage that as well. Jim, what would you add to, again, how you are accomplishing this incredible customer experience and managing that challenge of what omnichannel brings to the table? Your thoughts here, Jim?
Yeah, having the inventory in the right place at the right time is a big challenge, especially when you don't necessarily know where we're going to need to have that inventory until it's, in the 12th hour. So as we plan out our distribution network, we have to keep in mind year over year where we've been and where we could be. And then we have to be flexible. Our model from a supply chain perspective is being able to pivot at any given moment because we had a store unexpectedly that didn't come to fruition, or they popped up an additional one somewhere else. So inventory, optimization, and we keep ensuring that it's available for all channels is definitely a challenge, and technology helps us do that. But it is being agile and being able to pivot, whether that's eCom through one of the channels that we have on the store or just from the eCom itself and the distribution network to back that up.
Just bringing you in here, a lot of folks out there in supply chain land talk about flexibility and lead time and pivoting and being nimble and agile. And they mean one thing: this takes it, based on some of these unique complexities, to a whole new level. Justin, speak. What would you hear there between Venky and Jim?
Well, one of the things is talking about best practices, because let's face it, ship from store, omni-channel shipping from all your inventory sources isn't new, but it is something we are slowly getting better at as an industry. Some of those lessons that have been learned are, especially for your store associates, don't give them multiple applications. If you're going to do ship from store, it should happen in the same place that your BOPIS orders are being picked from. It should be no different for those operators, for those store associates, sorry. Because if we make it more difficult for them, you're going to introduce that option for mistakes. The only difference between a BOPIS order and a ship from store order should be one goes into a bag and the other goes into a box with a label. But the pick process should be the same. Every other interaction for that store associate should be the same to make things streamlined for them.
Yeah, Justin, I love that. Kim, I love how, as much as we talk about the customer experience, Justin brings up the employee experience, which is so equally as critical. But Kim, what'd you hear there between Venky, Jim, and Justin, and delivering on omni-channel demand and requirements?
So I worked at Nordstrom in supply chain, and Nordstrom, urban legend, is one of the first companies to actually do BOPIS. And the story as told by the Nordstrom brothers is that they turned it on and they came into work the next day and they had a 20-foot long piece of a receipt for lipstick that had just launched that everybody was trying to get a hold of. We're not really getting into the details of omnichannel today, but omnichannel is incredibly difficult to manage. So if you're in supply chain, you're working in e-commerce, you're working in fulfillment, and you're working in warehouses, the stuff is where it's supposed to be. It's in row, shelf, bin, right? Retail, especially, I can only imagine what happens in a Halloween store. We have no idea. It's supposed to be in this rack. Could be in a room. Could be in somebody's cart. Could have been hung up somewhere wrong. We got to go find it. So we're working under less than ideal conditions for picking, right? We're still under time crunches because the customer's probably on the way to pick it up, or we got to hit a shipping cutoff. And if we're doing a BOPIS or pickup from store, we probably don't have that inventory in a warehouse because we would have indexed on that first. And so we want to fulfill it out of a warehouse. So we have a time crunch. We have a sensitive situation when we're looking at fulfilling from these stores. So omnichannel is incredibly complex, but it is incredibly rewarding for the customer because before this, you just couldn't get it, right? You had to drive around, you had to go find it. But now places like Nordstrom, places like Spencer's are able to fulfill the customer's need, even though they don't have it right there.
That's right. Spencer's and Spirit are really showing how it's done on some different levels. And a big part of how it's done, Jim, is technology, right? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Gosh, imagine that the folks in supply chain 20 years ago had 1/10 of what was available these days. So now I want to ask you about that, Jim. So what role does technology play in streamlining specifically Spirit Halloween supply chain processes, right? And then also any specific tools or solutions come to mind that have been instrumental in driving these efficiencies and not just protecting, but improving customer satisfaction. Jim, tell us more.
Yeah. So, Spirit obviously is super challenging when it comes to everything, whether it's technology or not. Spencer's, again, real quick, it's a traditional distribution model. Right. So a bit easier, big box, distribution centers. When it comes to Spirit, we need to have it needs to be simple in nature, right? It's got to be very mobile from a technology stack. These DCs and distribution centers are pop-up. They're not open very long. So I can't bring in a lot of automation, but I have to have mobile technology and simple technology to get things in and out of the door. We don't need them to sit there long. I also have to be prepared for a distribution center that is supposed to be there, then suddenly is not there because of the nature of how we acquire them. So there's a lot of challenges. The infrastructure is not necessarily what you would have in a traditional distribution center because we're in there for a small period of time. So you have, communication issues, whether it's Wi-Fi, cellular, or your docking. So your technology has to be dynamic and flexible. And again, very simple in nature from what you're expecting, a temporary DC to be able to do and stand up in a fast environment. You're bringing in, a significant amount of merchandise to send out to, what would be 300 stores per pop-up DC. for example. It's definitely different than what we do in Spencer's. And it's, again, agile and nimble. Those are all key words that you have to be prepared for and ready. And then, you got to have a lot of low touch mobile type applications in the distribution center.
Yep. Before I switch over to Venky, any specific tools, solutions that you want to point to? I mean, you've described, I love the simple, dynamic, flexible, low touch, mobile. A lot of those are characteristics. Anything that you want to add to any specific solutions you've used there?
So when I think about our big box distribution, those are your normal, big players from a software perspective.
Right.
When we get down into our pop-up distribution centers, those are a little bit more leveraging some of the functionality but we've written a lot of custom applications to support that.
Okay.
As opposed to going with something that I would classify as a sledgehammer to kill a gnat, right? But we're not keeping these facilities around very long. They're a 3-4 month, just like our stores. They're different year over year. Some are the same. Depends on where the planning department decides to put our stores. So it's again very agile. It's very nimble. A lot of mobile devices that we own that we ship out, and technology that we've written that runs on those devices.
Yep.
Still has to communicate back up to ERPs in our main warehousing.
Jim, I love that analogy you mentioned, and I'm going to completely steal it from you about using a sledgehammer to kill a gnat, because there's a lot of that out there. And equally as much, there's a lot of using a needle to hunt down an elephant, perhaps, as I was struggling to find the reciprocal analogy there. Venky, what would you add to that in terms of how you're leveraging technology to deliver in eye-popping ways for your customers, especially given the unique complexities that your business model has?
As Justin called out, technology makes things easier, right? So we constantly looking into innovative ways and utilizing, some of the new technologies to help power our operations. I would say it's not just the technology, it's the processes around it, and being the right set of people allocated to it, right? So, what the way I look at this is, as we just talked about, it's not a traditional retailing environment, and you won't be able to use traditional demand forecasting or demand planning type of tools, that you typically use in the traditional world. So it becomes challenging in terms of, getting that unique aspect of our business and what type of technologies can really help us there. We spend a lot of time in exploring some of our AI and Gen AI type of technologies, which can make a big difference, especially how we open the stores and we run the stores and we close the stores. And there's so much that happens on the field from an operations perspective, and having these newer technologies which can have the rapid communication, feedback loops, as well as giving the best experience we can for our associates in the store, as well as to the guests, right? So there's a lot that can benefit from these newer technologies that are out there. So,
yep. So, Justin, I'll bring you in here. Whether it is some of the unique demands that we're seeing here that Jim and Venky are laying out for Spencer's and Spirit, and what you're seeing in equally demanding other environments out there for organizations that, again, want to nail the customer experience, right? And that particularly in this case, we've got some unique constraints on what I'll call the front end, upstream, with, as Venky talked about there, with demand planning. Given the nature of the business, that means even more, we got to nail the final mile. We got to nail the shipping. We got to nail the execution. Justin, your comments there before I shift over to Kim.
Well, what I will say is that nailing that doesn't mean spending the largest amount of money. Okay. It does mean understanding the customer's expectation and then finding the lowest cost solution that will meet or exceed that expectation. And so that's part of the processes that Venky was talking about. Good processes lead to good execution by good software. And that can help save money and raise that customer experience.
Yep. And empowering our associates that Venky and Jim were both talking about, putting them in the best possible position to make timely, confident, quick, and fast decisions so they can act whether you're on a what I'll call a traditional supply chain environment or a very compressed one like the incredible things they're doing at Spirit Halloween. Kim, what did you hear here between Justin, Venky, and Jim?
So customer experience. And when we look at something, a service like Spirit provides, it's very time limited. We have one day that we're going to use it. We might 2 days if you get lucky, maybe over a weekend. If Halloween's on a Saturday, you might get a couple uses out of what you purchased. So it's very time sensitive. And even I would say that it's more time sensitive than holiday shopping, because with holiday shopping, Christmas, maybe around New Year's, you got a couple days. People accept a gift any time of year, but you cannot show up as Batman in the office in April. So it's very time constrained. All right, Justin has comments on that. Perhaps Justin feels like he could show up as Batman in April. But so when we look at that, all of this technology, all these business processes, all of this is all driven down to one day. And that is a lot of work and a lot of promises that we made the customer.
That is right. And gosh, we gotta, I'm spiking the football again, maybe. We gotta lean into customized technology that we heard from Jim. That's not, that doesn't have to be terribly expensive that we heard from Justin, but not discounting sound process and incredible associates, as Venky mentioned, that deliver success, which is as important as any technology out there. All right. I want to talk about the future. Everybody got their shades handy, because we know Spencer's and Spirit is on the move, got a bright future. But I would argue the future of retail fulfillment, right? Mm-hmm. It's amazing just to be a student of what's been going on in this modern era. It really is, in light of increasing demand for fast and efficient shipping across the board. So I want to ask, Venky, I'll start with you. How do you envision the future of retail fulfillment, and what trends or technologies do you think are going to really shape the industry for the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, looking into the retail aspects of the business, right? I mean, everything comes down to me as a customer. I would expect the best experience possible, and also the convenience and the speed at which I can get the product delivered to me, right? So those are the key aspects. And where I see all the retailers are trending towards fulfillment is going away from the traditional big warehouses and DCs to more of a mini fulfillment centers, getting the product, moving the product closer to the customer. Right. But how you get there, that's a challenge. I mean, it involves network optimization. It involves inventory allocation and a lot of other things that come into place. But that's where I see a lot of retailers putting focus towards. And as you can see recently, Q-commerce has become a big deal. We are not only same day delivery, now we're talking about on-demand delivery, right? I mean, the expectations from the customers has risen to the level of 30-minute delivery. How do you make that happen, right? So when you look back, how we can get the product closer to the customer is going to be key. And that's where I see a lot of retailers spending a lot of time towards the AI and Gen AI solutions to have these processes come together.
Yeah. Before I shift over to Jim, two things I heard there, Venky, and tell me if I'm wrong. You didn't use this phrase, but I heard you kind of describing right sizing. No matter the business model, no matter the customer expectation, right sizing the apparatus, the network, the supply chain organization behind it. And that seems like that's exactly what you are doing at Spirit Halloween. It's amazing. And then secondly, Kim mentioned Batman. Folks, if the customer is expecting a awesome Batman costume in one day, you don't want to send them Robin in 7 days. Okay, we got on time, in full, and not got to protect their Halloween experience. Jim, what would you add? We're talking kind of the future, right? The future of retail fulfillment. What do you think is going to shape it? What do you see lying ahead?
Yeah, I mean, Venky touched on a lot of it, right? So it is about regional distribution as opposed to the big box distribution. So we, over the last year and a half, have converted over to more of a regional aspect from our big box distribution. And then, it's the small pop-up DCs that we have. So it is about placing distribution in the right places so we can deliver that value for the customer as fast as we can. And then there is automation that we can do when you think of Spencer's. Whether it's ASRS or some other form of automation within that traditional four walls that we're looking for. And then AI capabilities. When I think about the agileness that we have to have within our distribution channel and the software that we have to provide so they can fulfill at a rapid pace, we've gotten into some AI capabilities around our software development. So it's a little bit about what he said, and then, just some additional automation. But basically it's that regional distribution network and the flexibility that the pop-ups provide us that gives us kind of that little special sauce with some AI capabilities that we're now leveraging.
It's fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating. I know we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg here. Justin, when we think about the future, really, I would argue the now of retail fulfillment is mesmerizing, quite frankly, especially the Spencer's and Spirit story. But when you think about that, or you think about the future of retail fulfillment, what do you see? What's going to shape that in the path forward?
So I'm going to say volatility, but that can be controlled, right? We mentioned that customers want faster, freer. We mentioned some customers even want 30-minute delivery. Oddly, in what we see now is these same-day carriers now offering next-day solutions. And so what I'll put out there is that I think customers want to know when they can get an item, and they're more likely to purchase, especially if you keep or exceed that expectation. In order to do that, the area of volatility that comes in for a company like Spencer's is the changes that are being made in the carriers, the changes in the number of carriers that are available. In the last year, we've probably seen a dozen new carriers enter the market, with half a dozen leaving the market. And who knows what that mix is going to look like in 2025. So volatility is here to stay, I think. We're never going to go back to the 3-carrier world we had, in the early 2000s. It really is how we can come together and understand what the expectation is being set for the customer, how we can pick the carriers or rationalize those carriers necessary in order to meet those expectations.
Well said, Justin. Kim, it is indeed a dance, whether it's the foxtrot, the flamenco, the Charleston choo-choo. I think all those are dances. I'm not going to try them for you. I don't want to pain our audience, but this is really a beautiful story. So many of our audience members have shopped and experienced the Spencer's stores or Spirit Halloween, and to hear kind of some of the supply chain and technology and e-commerce leadership perspective behind it, I think is fascinating. And they're still writing a new chapter. We're going to touch on what's next for all the organizations here in just a second. But Kim, pretty interesting story. I wish we had about, 12 more hours to this conversation, huh?
Yeah. I want to just take us back just a little bit. This all started in 1946, right? So this is when Spencer started. I think I got the date right. Mid-1940s, in case I got it wrong. And so here's a company that has been around since 1946 and is continuing to evolve, is continuing to meet their customer needs, continuing to offer modern innovations in supply chain. And I can look at a lot of companies that are much younger than this company that are struggling with that. It's pretty miraculous to look at this. And as we look to the future and we look at what the customers are going to ask for things like companies like Spirit and Spencer's, the customers now know what supply chain is. They're no longer confused about how their stuff shows up. And so they're demanding more and more. They want it faster. They want it direct from manufacturer. They want it cheaper. They just want their experience to be unique to them, kind of like it was when they went to a store.
That is right. That is right. Well said, Kim. I like that history lesson too, because you're right. There are much younger companies that haven't pieced it together and haven't been nearly as sustaining and enduring and innovative as Spencer's and Spirit. And we're just getting a part of the story here today. All right. Well, we were just talking about the future. And I'm going to ask each of y'all what's next, because all three of our panelists, their organizations, they don't sit on laurels for a second. And Jim, you've already kind of let part of the cat out of the bag in terms of what's next for Spencer's and Spirit with Spirit Christmas. I can't wait to learn more about that. But anything else you want to add to what's next for your organization?
Yeah, outside of reading and reacting to Christmas, data is a big driver for us now, right? So that we can better understand our customers, so that we can support them and get the product in the right place at the right time. So we're going through a lot of data initiatives right now, so we can, again, better understand the customer. And it's about, continuing to modernize our technology through AI, so that we can, speed up delivery or the execution, the operational execution within our pop-ups and in our full-wall historic distribution centers. So as long as we can continue down that path of getting our technology in a place that's not the sledgehammer, but is very flexible and able to enhance what we do operationally, and then leverage data to ensure that where we put those pop-ups, they're available for the right amount of inventory to be there, and that we can get it in and out and not store it for a long period of time.
Yeah, Jim, quick follow-up before I switch over to Venky. Your organization strikes me as they are passionate and just consumed with learning the customer almost day by day. Is that a fair assessment? Is that one of y'all's superpowers that rolls up into your ability to deliver at the level y'all deliver?
It is. I mean, we do know our customer. I think, I don't know that you ever know it 100% the way you want to know it. It's
right.
always, it's an evolving thing as you go through. The more you learn, the more you don't know. So it's an evolving thing that we constantly go after. But I think our biggest strength is operationally how we have learned how to do this, right? That was there long before the sophistication of IT, if you go back into the 40s and then into even the 80s, right?
Right.
When Spirit started. So as technology has evolved, we've been able to leverage that for, our operational efficiencies, because we do know how to do it, whether it's on paper or in the system. So we're, from an IT perspective, we're trying to stay up and keep our business automated as best we can to alleviate and let them go and spend their time and energy on how to improve.
Love it. And Jim, we had a lot of cool things in the 80s. Parachute pants, breakdancing setups, Coke Clear or New Coke. That wasn't quite as cool, I don't think. But supply chain tech, it wasn't quite the golden age, and it is amazing where we are here. Venky, what would you add? Anything else you can add to what's next for Spencer's and Spirit?
Yeah, I think Jim covered most of it. One additional thing what I would like to add here is when you talk about Christmas season getting launched, right? So now you're talking about two seasonal businesses, one after the other. So rolling over from Halloween season as it winds down into the Christmas season, and then getting the inventory and getting those stores set up with the right inventory in that short period of time, matter of days, and then going through that season. That's going to be, one of the big focus for us. And just, you can imagine, the entire technology play for all the aspects of supply chain is going to be pretty critical. So I would just say that experience and convenience, and how do you make those two happen with the speed what is expected by the customer, that's going to be our focus.
I love it. The experience and convenience. What a simple, simple is not simple. Attaining simplicity in any organization certainly isn't simple. But I think any audience member here today could follow along with what y'all have shared as y'all have continued to refine and perfect an engine that delivers those quality experiences and conveniences for your customers out there. Look forward to having y'all back. Justin, hey, big thanks to you and the ProShip team for bringing Jim and Venky and their stories, what they're doing out there, to our Supply Chain Now audience. What is next for ProShip? Y'all stay on the move here. What's coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna steal a word you just said, which is simple. And my phrase that I love to talk with our implementation teams, our development teams, is simple is never easy. Okay, and in order to make something simple, you need to really do two things: communicate and improve. And that's exactly what ProShip is trying to do going forward. We put out yet another report about all the data that we've got from the input from our customers to help the industry. But also we are communicating with our customers even more. We've got a user conference coming up in May in Colorado. Look forward to talking to more people in person, especially after we've all recovered from peak.
Right.
And really just folding all of that information back into the product. So as we deal with the carrier volatility and the rest of the enterprise software stack continues to move, that we can keep up with it and try to make it as simple as possible.
Oh, I love that, Justin. I love that. And we're going to touch on one of those resources you mentioned in just a minute, the ProShip report, which will help a lot of folks, a lot of good information there. So, Justin, also, we had a blast talking Trek a few weeks back, and another 1-2 punch here with Jim and Venky with the Spencers and Spirit story. Fascinating stuff. All right, Kim, I'm going to get your patented key takeaway in just a second. I want to share some resources with everyone out there. Let's go ahead and share, and then we'll make sure folks know how to connect with Justin, Venky, and Jim here today. And I want to start with what Jim was just touching on, and that is the ProShip report. Hey, did you know that over 50% of high-volume shippers in 2024 prioritize on-time delivery when choosing a carrier? Well, you can dive deeper into all sorts of revealing statistics, that and a whole bunch more with this white paper entitled The ProShip Report, Navigating the Future of Parcel Shipping 2024. It's good stuff. Check it out. If you love data and data-driven insights, you're going to want to check that out. Also, hey, go ahead and schedule a personalized discovery call and demo with the ProShip team to kick the tires a bit. Justin welcomes all the tough questions, I promise you. And they can see, or you can see what they can do for you. We're dropping both those links to the report and that demo call right there in the chat to make it really easy. Kim, before we connect the dots, we have got, I've got about 19 pages of key takeaways from Jim and Venky and Justin here today. But if you point our audience, the smartest audience in all the globe, to one thing that they got to take away from the story here today, what would that be?
The key takeaway is this: an 80-year-old company can stay relevant in today's world and can continue to deliver on a customer experience that is exceptionally challenging, probably one of the more challenging customer experiences in retail and e-commerce out in the market today, and is continuing to evolve. I work with a lot of small, mediums, a lot of startups, and a lot of companies fizzle out at the 10 to 15. And if you can make it 80 and continue to innovate and deliver on customer experience, that's really doing something.
Well said. Moving the bar ever higher every day. Venky and Jim, good stuff. And Justin, of course, I bet you and the team are thrilled to collaborate and learn from this team here of gurus every day. All right. Big thanks to our panel here today. Venky Avunoori, Vice President, eCom and Customer Technologies at Spencers and Spirit. Venky, how can folks connect with you if they want to learn more about this incredible story that y'all have been writing for quite some time?
Yes, Scott. Thank you for having me today on this show. It has been a wonderful experience. And audience can connect with me on LinkedIn. Search for Venky Avunoori. You will find me.
Great to have you here, Venky. I really have enjoyed learning from you and your colleague, Jim Ray, Divisional Vice President, Supply Chain Technology, also at Spencers and Spirit. Jim, a pleasure to have you here today. How can folks follow up with you to learn more?
Yeah, again, thank you, Scott, for having me, and Kim for participating, and Justin as well. I can be reached out at LinkedIn as well. It's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay. Or at a hockey rink up in Ohio, or you can track down Venky running through now maybe the beautiful city of Philadelphia on the next half or full marathon. So really enjoyed y'all being here. Justin Cramer, the hit maker. Justin, really appreciate, again, bringing the story here today. Really appreciate what y'all doing at ProShip. How can folks track you down?
Well, ProShipInc.com is a great way to contact the whole company. And of course, I'm available at LinkedIn as well.
Outstanding. I appreciate that. Kim Reuter, really have enjoyed your perspective as we have heard from Jim and Venky and Justin here today. Hits keep on coming. Of course, folks, y'all, if you don't already, make sure you find, follow, connect with Kim Reuter, especially on LinkedIn.
Yes, please.
You don't want to miss that perspective. Kim, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this fascinating conversation as much as I have. We've dropped the links all there. We want to make it really easy, right? We want to serve as connectors here. So you'll find Venky, you'll find Jim's and Justin's LinkedIn profiles right there. Make the connection. But more importantly, you got homework. Man, we've got a master class in how to execute on customer experience and protect it and optimize it here today, especially from a supply chain perspective. You got to take one thing from the truckload of brilliance we heard here today, put it into practice, share it with your teams. They're ready to change how business is done, but it takes deeds, not words. So with all that said, on behalf of the Supply Chain Now team, Scott Luton challenge you to do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. We'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being a part of our Supply Chain Now community. Check out all of our programming at supplychainnow.com and make sure you subscribe to Supply Chain Now anywhere you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time on Supply Chain Now.